So tell me about your coming out experience, Rizzo.
To be honest, I've never had one.
That's fair.
I've honestly never had one. Well, you know what? Nope. Let me take that back. When I was 21 years old, I did talk to my mom, and I told my mom, you know, like I took her out to because I had it all planned. I had been living on my own for like 3 years. I moved out straight at 18. Got my own apartment. Been living on my own. Still did not really fully start messing with guys until like 2 years after that. Even though I was on my own, I was still scared. You know, everybody in my little city, they still knew each other. We all knew each other. I had a girlfriend at the time. We were together for like 3 years. You know, and something in me still feels like she always knew, but that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, so I was 21 years old, living on my own for a little while. I took my mom out to dinner. At this time, I have gained 3 gay friends. I've never had gay friends. We had people who like we thought was gay, but we were never really friends. So I had gained 3 gay friends at the time. They kind of like pumped me up a little bit, you know, to let me know like it's okay. Like you can talk to your family. You know, who's your favorite person? Like they really coached me through it. Like, you know, you need to pick one person. I was like, man, that's gonna be my mama, but I don't really like. I didn't want to put my mama in an awkward position because, you know, like this my mama, her husband is pastor. Like they big in the church, and like, I didn't want to like bring no division between my parents or none of that. But at this point, I'm like, you know, it is what it is. I'm getting closer and closer to not giving a basically. So we go out to dinner. I tell my mom, I'm like, you know, my cousin, she had just dyed her hair. And when I say we was big, like in the church thing, like we didn't do none of that. Like we didn't dye our hairs, we didn't get piercings, we didn't do none of that. So the fact that she dyed her hair, everybody was like talking. Like it was so quick. And I was like, Mom, you know, Cuzzo dyed her hair or whatnot. And she was like, yeah, I saw it. I was like, you don't think she gay because she did that? And she was like, no, why would I think she gay because she did that? I was like, oh, well, because I want to dye my hair. She was like, why would you want to dye your hair? You gay? Like, it just immediately switched. My girl cousin did it. It was no problem. I said, I want to do it. First question, you gay? Me. I think I am. She bust out laughing. She did not believe me. Literally from that moment until she met my current boyfriend now, who I've been with for 9 years. She had to meet him like a whole year later. And for her to realize, like, dang, you was not playing, because people know me. I'm a jokester. I'm a prankster. I've been like that all my life. That was kind of like another coping mechanism that I kind of gained as I started getting older to kind of hide that. Other than that, I didn't really tell anybody else. Like, I didn't really feel the need to come out to anybody else after me and my mom had like an understanding. I didn't really feel like nobody else really, to be honest, and not to be like disrespectful to my other family members, but didn't nobody else really matter at that point because this is my mother. Eventually I'll tell my father, but that's, like I said, a whole nother story. I'm grateful that I waited to do like I did, because like right now, the people, when they find out that I'm gay, it's because they find it out from TikTok. I don't owe none of them no explanation. And what are they? They still in my inbox to this day. All of them, the girls, the boys, because I mean, I'm not a dummy. I know right now they feel like, oh, I know him. I went to school with him. Oh, that's my boo, my bae. I cannot wait to make my video about these fake ass.
Get them.
Was that a beat? I cannot wait to get, honestly, like make a video about these bitches, because I'm so sick and tired. Like my whole life, y'all was fake as fuck. Y'all treated me a certain type of way because y'all thought I was something, gay or whatever they thought I was. They would. None of them was never bold enough to say it to my face. Let's start there. So yeah, but it's just weird to me now. Like some of them, as they're still finding out. I'm 31. I'll be 32 in August, and like literally every other day is somebody commenting on one of my old videos, something so that they don't be seen. They want to comment on something old and be like, hey, call me. Hey, do this. Hey, do that. Girl, no. Boy, no. For any of y'all who watching this video, no. Please know I'm not going to call you, because y'all had y'all time with me to talk to me. Y'all had y'all time to get to know me then, and now that y'all see a like or two or a follower or two, everybody want to be involved.
Share with us what your coming out experience was like. How did that go?
Which time?
The first time. I want the second time too. I know you say you came out in the 7th grade.
Like I said, it was a little bit different. I do want to clarify this. It was a little bit different being from the Eastern Shore than being from the DC Baltimore area. It's a bridge that separates the Eastern Shore. The Eastern Shore is the part of Maryland that literally hangs out in the Atlantic Ocean, right? It's a bridge that separates where I'm from the DMV, right? So I was always exposed. I was always in and out of Baltimore growing up because of having family members who lived in Baltimore. A lot of my family members were like me. The Eastern Shore was too small for them. So I knew, and I was building friendships and associations and relationships with the DMV girls that was coming out at young ages and, being genderqueer in high school. That's what I was inspired by. I was inspired by those girls. But being on the Eastern Shore, I was the pioneer. Chrissy and Naja and my mother Deidre and a lot of those girls, they came before me, like a few years before me, but their transition and their queerness was a little more discreet than mine, just because my family was so known on the Eastern Shore. So it was like, big time drug dealer, this is child. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
It was a thing where I'm from, a lot of people consider me the first, even though I technically wasn't. I was just more loud than a lot of the other girls. And I kept it on the Eastern Shore. A lot of the other girls, they transitioned away from home. I transitioned at home and then moved.
That is different.
Coming out in the 7th grade, it was a thing where everybody in the hood knew, my family knew, this is my natural voice. I haven't been pumped. I don't have implants. And like I was mentioning earlier, the shade that the girls threw in the ballroom thing was just because I was naturally feminine. As a boy, I wasn't seen as attractive. For people who are attracted to masculinity, I wasn't seen as that. When people said no fat, no femmes, I was on that list.
Right.
You know what I mean? But all of a sudden, when something clicked in my mind, like, the world is seeing you as a woman. And I started actually accepting it and responding to it and realizing that gender is just a spectrum. And I'm falling on this female side of the spectrum. Everybody knew growing up. And they tried to bully me. I was a target for bullies and all that. And I didn't have my sexuality figured out. I was a child, 7th grade.
That's young as hell.
But the shade is the adults and the parents of these bullies was putting these ideas in their children's heads and trying to put this idea in my head that it was something wrong with me because I didn't fit in with the norm. So everybody used this gay thing. Everybody was throwing these F slurs. But for me, I had queer people around me who I admired and looked up to. That wasn't a slur. That wasn't a bad thing. Y'all dumb for thinking it is. So because people felt like they had control over me with that word, into an up until I transitioned, they did. My femininity, I felt like, was a curse. 7th grade, we walking home from school, middle school, me and all the rest of the project kids, because they didn't give us a bus. It was a thing where somebody was fighting every other day walking home from school, honey. And on this particular day, somebody was trying to come at me and use it. And I was just having a good day. And I was just like, oh, okay, I'm gay. All right. Next. And everybody was just like, oh, well, I guess we can't use that as a jab no more. And that was my coming out story. Once word got back to my mother and my family, everybody was like, why'd you come out to them before you came out to us?
Real, that ain't even a point, y'all. They real do that.
Still to this day, I am 30 plus. And still to this day, not too long ago, my father was admitting to me that he still feels some type of way that everybody used before him. I'm
Baby's
like,
first step, baby's first word.
Did it make you feel any better that you was one of the first people that knew that I was trans once I figured that out? Like, but I never came out as trans. I was forced to come out as trans.
How did that go? How did that happen?
Child, they for me it was a big thing. You know, it's the same thing that the logic that I grew up with learning about sex and gender and biology and real women and real men and all of these things. I always knew I was a real. So being unreal in the sense of what I feel like realness is, the sense of being honest about who you are, being emotionally and socially aware. You know what I mean? That's real to me. So grappling with all these ideas of gender and sex and sexuality. And keep in mind, I'm pansexual. I'm out as gay, but I'm still attracted to women and femininity and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to figure all this out in my head coming from this small rural town where I am everybody's example. I don't have no authority to go to. You know what I mean?
That's a lot of pressure on the inside and out.
And then by this time I started walking balls. So I was getting pressure from the ballroom scene too. You know, by ballroom, at the time, by ballroom standards, I was a drag queen. Regardless, no hormones, no surgical intervention. I was still using my boy name in real life, still presenting or attempting to present as male sometimes, depending on the day. So yeah, and then I get in this scene that's like, nah, you too feminine, you too curvy, you too fleshy. You know, your features are too soft. But y'all can't find nobody I've been pumped by. Y'all ain't never seen me take a pill, injection. Y'all offer them to me, I turn them down. I am drag's realness, right? Nah, you a femme queen. I was. But at the time, by ballroom standards, I wasn't. On paper, I wasn't. We know now that I was because I eventually evolved into that. But that's every other girl in the scene.
Almost all of the older femme queens and older girls who have had some type of work or something done, they would always be having a message to the girls was like, don't rush, think about what you're doing, and you don't have to do whatever you don't do. Like, this is a continuing message that I done heard, not necessarily to me, but like just listen to their interviews and stuff. So this is really a thing where they was really...
They try, the scene tries and rush our transition, and I think it's because the scene is aesthetic. It's all about looks. It's all about perception. It's all about
it is. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people get caught in the fantasy, and that's why you do get girls in the scene who detransition because maybe they were never a binary trans woman. Maybe they were just always somewhere in between.
In my mind, I probably would say about middle school, that's when I got more curious, because it was such a don't do thing in our community where we grew up. It wasn't that many people that I was attracted to or, was my type. So I would go in little chat rooms when we used to have chat rooms and just talk to different people, different girls. And then that's when I got build more confidence because I guess when I was like 14 or 15, I had my first girlfriend, but she lived in South Carolina. We met on the chat room.
What chat room? You got to tell the people.
I think it was like one of those AOL chat rooms, or it might have been like Black Planet. I don't even think I was supposed to have one of them back then. But it was me and my first girlfriend. We actually still friends on Facebook, Janiqua. Like, that was my first girlfriend. She lived in South Carolina, I lived in North Carolina, but we talked on the phone like all the time. Nobody knew I really had a girlfriend, and she was a little bit older than me, but we talked like into like 1 year to the next year, and I'm like, okay, so for me this is like getting real serious. Like, so I guess over the middle school years, once I got to high school, I was just like, okay, something gotta happen, because I can't keep living this double life or facade, like having a boyfriend in quotations.
So you did have a boyfriend?
Yeah, having a boyfriend, but still talking to girls. Like, so
you had a boyfriend at the same time you had a girlfriend in South Carolina?
Yeah.
So what age was this?
I would say like 14.
Okay.
So yeah, I would be talking to girls like, and I would have a boyfriend too, because it wasn't so accepting. I just went with the fact of having a boyfriend, but to me it was just like this prettiest nigga that I could find. Like, I never went with no ugly ass dude. He had to be like real pretty. Like, everybody in my family always talked about like my first boyfriend. Like, I started dating him when I was in the 7th grade, and I dated him all the way till I got to high school. And everybody always talked about how pretty he was. He was always clean kept and all of that. But for me, now I know why. Now I know why. For me, I did have a girlfriend and a boyfriend for a while. For a while. Even into my first year in high school, I had a actual girl that I was messing with while I had a boyfriend. But that's a whole nother spill.
Well, you need to go ahead. We need a little bit of tea. We need a little bit of juice. Can we get some?
Okay, so when I was in high school, you know, I had a boyfriend too. By then, me and the girl in South Carolina, we had started, you know, not talking. Of course, we were getting older, and phone communication just wasn't all that. So in 9th grade, I had a boyfriend. In 10th grade, and I had this girl who was one of my friends, and we liked each other, but like, for me, I knew I ain't want to stay in the closet for a long time. So while I was dating this dude, I was telling her, like, I'm ready to come out the closet, because we was talking, we would be kissing, we would be messing around, but like, she didn't want to come out of the closet because of her living situation. She didn't think, you know, people would accept her. But whereas for me, I didn't give a fuck if nobody accepted me or not. This is who I am, like it or love it.
So at this time, had you already came out?
No.
Okay, but you was getting to that point, like,
I was ready to come out.
Yeah.
And she wasn't. So I was like, either we gonna come out as girlfriends, or I'm just gonna leave you in the dust. I don't even mean to say it like that, but at the time I had a boyfriend and I was messing with her. Me and the boyfriend broke up, so it's a time period where me and her was just messing around. And that was my best friend, kind of, sort of, at the time. We were close, and I felt like, you know, we really connected on a lot of levels. But at the same time, I couldn't hold myself back, because she didn't feel comfortable being accepted. So we still remained friends, but once I came out, it came, you know, put a little strain on our relationship. So that was that. And
what age was this?
I was 16.
When you officially came out? So who you came out to first?
First of all, I didn't come out to nobody. I came out to Facebook. When I came out... This is so funny to me now. When I came out with my actual girlfriend, it was a girl who had rode my bus for a long time, and I thought she was really cute. The summer had hit, and I found out she moved to Maryland. So we had started talking, and during the summer, she was like, I have to go live with my dad. We moving. And I was devastated. So We just kept talking. Like, she moved to Maryland and was not too. My sister knows her sister, which is a small world. My sister lived up there.
Mm-hmm.
So we just kept talking. We dated for like a year and a half or two. And I just wrote it on Facebook one day. I was like, I'm missing my baby. And I tagged her in the status. And I love her. Something of that nature. I miss my baby and I love her. And I tagged her in the status. And that's when the uproar started.
To myself, I would say I came out around 16.
Okay.
To myself, I was like, this is it. Like, this is probably the route that I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go, because I was trying to have sex with guys like all the time at this point.
Were you interested in women at this time at all?
I don't think I was interested in women. I think what was happening was I was trying to be with women so people wouldn't know that I was into men.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I wasn't really, I had sex with women, but it wasn't like it was something that I wanted to do. It was like, okay, if they think that I'm having sex with women, they're never going to think that I'm having sex, what they fall for. You know what I mean? So it was like, it was easier role for me, and then when I came out to everyone else, I came out to my mom first, because this is a true story, real story. I was watching All My Children one day, right? I knew my mother liked All My Children, and Erica Kane's daughter came out to her mother, right? And her mother kind of not embraced her totally, but kind of like, and I thought my mother would do the same thing because she watched All My Children all the time.
Right.
So I came out to her. She didn't like it. She was like, the devil is in you. You're going to die. All the bad shit. Maybe 6 months later, me and my partner at the time, there was a lady that was doing an interview on DL Men, right? And she wanted to interview me. So I interviewed her. So she asked, could she take a picture of me? And I was like, if you take a picture of me, you know me. I'm that guy. I gotta be. So I was like, if you take a picture of me, I gotta be on the cover. I can't. I'm not no back page type person. I gotta be on the cover. So she was like, well, we can see what we can do about that. So me, I'm like, all right, cool. It would be even better if we both could be on the cover. So She was like, okay, I'm gonna see what I could do. So they came to the house, they took pictures, and then next thing you know, the magazine was like everywhere. My mother seen it, like everybody seen it. So that was like my coming out to everybody. Because at that point, I didn't care no more. I was turning 19.
Oh, you was bugged. You was grown.
Yeah, because that's what I'm saying. Like, when I came out to my mother and she was like, "Oh, you're gonna die," and all that other stuff, it was like, what do you now have to be afraid of? You know what I'm saying? Like, your mother is literally telling you. You know what I mean? So it's like, all right, cool. So here we go. You know what I mean? And then the backlash of losing friends and losing family because they're like, oh, he gay. But I'm like, I'm the same person I was just yesterday. You know what I mean? I'm not different than I was yesterday. The only thing is now y'all know. Because it was always happening. Y'all just didn't know. But now y'all know. So that was the only difference.
My coming out is like two-part because I had to come out twice.
Right. And we'll get to that too. We can go ahead.
Right. The first time that maybe 3 or 4 times actually, now that I think about it, coming out. Anyway, the first time that I came out, it was, hey, I'm attracted to men. And it happened because I chose to have sexual intercourse in school. Okay. And got suspended for it. Because I got caught. Now, the long story short of the suspension, what happened with the young man and myself happened on a Friday. And because I was just who I was at the time, I had to tell somebody. And I told someone who mattered. And so that rumor, which was true because it was caught on camera. I'm a freshman in high school, caught going in and out of the bathroom with somebody together, and then we do things outside of the bathroom, less sexual. But hey, like, why are 2 young men doing that? So anywho, that Monday when we got back to school, he was waiting outside my second period, ready to fight. Because, of course, he wasn't out. He wasn't gay. And I was like... Oh, I got my ass beat. Oh, my God. I sure did. So...
I was not expecting that. Wait. Why are we laughing about it?
I remember what I had on. I remember what he had on. It was the craziest thing. So anywho, once we got to the principal's office and he talks about how I had spreaded this rumor about I sucked his penis. Can we say stuff like that?
I'll bleep it out if I have to.
And I'm like, it's true. Like, I wouldn't lie about that. So I'm telling the principal, like, hey, it happened here. It happened around this time, on this day. This is what I had on. This is what he had on. We were sitting right here. And they were like, well, you know, we'll go back and look. Go back and look. Oh, at this point, I wasn't out at home. Like, yeah, at school, I was like this flaming young man. Like, but I wasn't like, hey, I'm gay at home. So, of course, I get suspended for 3 days. And for peer relations is why I got suspended, because I didn't fight back. I actually, like, balls up and let the young man beat me up. Like, I wasn't a fighter. I didn't do all that. I had a big bark. Didn't fight at that time. Anyway, so peer relations, I had to explain that to my mom. So they allowed me to go home, tell my mother that I was gay. That night, we had like something going on at school, like parent-teacher conference. It was like a really big deal. So I had to come back with her, and then we sat in the principal's office and discuss completely why I was suspended. But that was the day I told my mom out my mouth that I was gay. And she was just like, so hurt. She was like, I mean, we knew you were gay. You could have brought that young man home. Like, why would you do this at school? Take the chances of getting caught here. Why there? You know, all about the image. You know where we came from, like that time period. That was the toughest part for me, seeing my mom hurt about that. Like, I had a lot of empathy about that. Like, I would think for my mom, like, hey, I'm about to do this. I went to prom as a girl. So, yes, I went to prom as Natasha, because that was close to graduation, like right there, like where I had made in my mind, like, okay, this is going to happen one way or another. So I just remember the preparation for prom, taking pictures in a tux, getting a haircut weeks prior, all of that stuff weeks prior, so I could have pictures to say, hey, this was when I went to prom. Here you go. But then what really happened was I went to a friend's house the whole weekend, which was the plan anyway. She wasn't going to see me off. And Natasha went to prom. It was like Cinderella. It was beautiful.
I never knew that. What color was your dress?
It was green. I have pictures on Facebook.
So you had to come out to her for that particular reason.
For that particular reason.
So then you move on.
She gets over me being gay, you know, like saying, hey, I'm gay. She was over it. You know, it was fine because everyone knew that.
It wasn't a big shocker.
It wasn't a big shocker. No. The shocker was when I decided, okay, no more haircuts. That's not happening. And my transition, I remember my senior year again, I had long hair and it was processed because I was getting a texturizer. And my mother cut my hair. Like, she was really upset. I was about to take senior pictures. And like 2 nights before, she was like, oh no, I didn't have girls. We about to cut it. And like, we actually kind of fought. And she like snipped. It was like really intense too. Yeah.
How did you feel when she actually cut your hair? Like,
oh, I was hurt. That was like deep pain too, because it was like disrespect almost. Again, in my mind, I'm an adult because I'm working, I pay my bills, I'm supporting this transition also, like financially, like buying my clothes and stuff like that. So,
what can you really say?
In regards to my hair. At the time, I did not get it. of course. Looking back on it now, I get it. You know, she was putting a roof over my head. She was still supplying for her son and supporting her son.
Yeah.
And she said that she only had boys, and she felt that she didn't want me to have long hair. So,
and we have to look back and give them some type of grace when it comes to it. I mean, somewhat. It depends on this every situation. That's very situational or circumstantial, but
absolutely, because every circumstance is not the same. Some people's transition is much more intense.
So one of the questions I like to ask is, when did you come out to yourself, and when did you come out to everybody else officially, if that happened for you?
So I came out to myself around my maybe like junior and senior year in high school. I had been dating a girl who's now my best friend. Like, we've been friends forever.
What age were you at the time?
We broke up in 10th grade. I was like 16. And so around that time, I recognized that, like, we had all these opportunities to do all the things that, like, you know, teenagers do and sneak around. And I was just, like, not into it. And her mom was like, oh, he's just such a gentleman. Girl, I'm gay. I don't want to have sex with your daughter. It's fine. Like, I like, what are we doing? I came out to myself in that moment, but I did not come out publicly until, I say the first people I came out to was like my parents. That's a lie. I came out to my best friend, but I came out to my parents in like 2018. I was 25, and so it was after I had been married to a woman, after I had gotten divorced, and I had started dating someone. And so I remember distinctly, like, going to my parents' house, like, after choir practice or something, and was like, I got to talk to y'all. And it was like, I was like, I'm dating somebody, and my mom automatically thought it was my best friend, the girl I dated in high school. I was like, no, it's a boy. So, like, that was a whole nother conversation because, like I said, I had like really, really Christian parents. And surprisingly, my dad was the person who was like the most accepting. My mom, it took her a minute to like come around. But yeah, I was well into like adulthood, like 25 before I came out. It hasn't even been, it's been around 15 years now.
What age did you get married? Tell me about that.
So I got married right after undergrad. I was 23. I graduated in May of that year. It was like 2006, if I'm not mistaken. And I got married in July of 2006. This was very much church politics. I was the praise and worship leader at my church. I was like in a position to like do a lot of leadership roles in church, and including like being over hospitality. Like, I was the editor of the church's newsletter. I was like the co-lead on the like young adult ministry, like all of these things. And so, right. So the next thing you do is you're supposed to get married, right? And so I was in a bunch of community choirs, and the girl that I got married to, like, I had joined the community choir once I came back from college, and we started dating, ended up dating for a little while. And then I was like, okay, she seems like the person that I should marry. Like, we were like amazing together. Like, I loved her with everything. And for a while, like, I felt like I was bisexual. Like, I've always been attracted to women. I think women are gorgeous. I think they're beautiful. And so, like, we got together, got married, because I felt like I had to get married in order to like get away from like gossip and the facade of like me not wanting to be partnered or whatever at that moment. And so 23, right out of college, I married somebody who was like 10 years older than me in the church. And so like it became a big thing. Like, my wedding was like gorgeous. Like, people donated because these people had seen me grow up. So like people were donating things. Like, we paid little or nothing to get married, but the ceremony I think itself was wonderful. And that was, again, for people. Like, for me, like, I didn't love her, and like we got married, and then shortly after we got engaged was the first time like I had sex with her, and that was the first time I had sex with any person. And it was very weird because I was terrified the whole time, but I was like, oh, this kind of feel good. But I was terrified the whole time, and turns out she got pregnant like right afterwards. And so,
wow,
right, like the first time I had sex, I got somebody pregnant. And I was like, this is what that my mama was talking about. Like, the consequences of your action like show up very quickly.
Yeah.
And so she wanted to push the wedding up, and I was like, man, we're not finna do that. Like, we get married in 2 months. Like, it's fine. Like, things will be fine. she ended up losing a baby, which I think in itself, it's like it was sad. It was saddened to me, but I also think that like purposefully, like it was something that needed to happen. But
people don't say that enough about that situation.
And so like you deal with like the grief of it. Like I still to this day sometimes like deal with the grief of it. But it was something that really needs to happen. And so like we ended up getting divorced a little bit less than a year after we got married. There's a lot of infidelity. Like she was doing all kinds of wild shit. One being with like the minister of music in my church. Like it was just super wild. It's a bunch of wild shit. And so like in those moments like of being married and like actually getting divorced and all that, I was thinking to myself, like I really just should have been true to who I was and like dated men and like fell in love with men and like done all the things that I really, really felt on the inside I should be doing. And so we got divorced. I haven't talked to her in probably since we got divorced. But that part of my life was really, really riddled with me trying to like continue to like hide who I was like as a person because I was in a position to like lead or be next in charge and all these and that was really important to me at that moment. But I mean, emotionally and everything else, it was just manipulation. And so after I got divorced, it was like, okay, I can be who I really am. And so,
like I said, I've always thought that people just like what they like. I never had to come out to myself. I never had to accept myself because I always just was who I am. It was just that simple for me. Like, it was never no, oh, I feel like this. I knew from a very young age. That's what I like. I like men. Simple. And then like coming out to an actual person, I think I came out to one of my cousins. We were really close at the time. I came out to her first, and she was just like, "Bitch, okay, we already knew that." And then when I actually came out to my mother, I came out as bisexual because I felt like maybe that'll soften the blow, even though I knew that wasn't me. And she was just like, "Well, you can't be bisexual because like bisexuals are basically gays." That's basically what she said. And then I was like, you know what, fucking, and then I'm just a but I didn't say it like that. I was just like, well, basically I'm gay. And then that's like I said, that's the downfall of the relationship. Everything starts at that moment. The downfall of everything that has to do with like my relatives and my mother starts at that moment.
Do you think the basis of everything that was going on with the issues they have with you is them having their own issues plus you being queer?
I think so. I think a lot of it stems from their own personal trauma. It stems from the fact that I'm a queer person, and it stems from the fact that they didn't like my father. So it's like a mixture of a lot of different things. And when I finally moved away and actually got the time to think about things, I came to the realization of that part of the journey. But I didn't go any deeper than that because I felt like they don't have shit to do with me. Like that's their problem. It's not my problem. I can't help that. Simple. And I just kept moving. I kept moving on with my life and dealing with my own personal traumas and dealing with the stuff that they tried to hand down to me. Life has been a journey for the last couple of years, honestly. It's been like a real journey of self and a journey of healing, and then evolving spiritually.